So, one of the things that we noticed is that companies and individuals used to rely and would always tell us that they were fine from a marketing perspective because everything was word of mouth and everything was referral for them. A lot of them spent quite a bit of time on the road at trade shows and conferences, and that was their primary marketing channel. And unfortunately, a lot of that has gone away.
Yeah.
Even the trade shows and conferences that are happening virtually aren't happening in the same way. And that sort of word of mouth marketing, that shaking hands and kissing babies type of marketing has been eliminated. And that's been really hard for some people and companies that relied primarily on word of mouth marketing.
Hi, it's a lovely day in my office. This is Tracey Welson-Rossman, Chief Marketing Officer of Charity Solutions. And we're taping this a little bit before Women's History Month. And you'll notice that there will be a theme in our 15 Minutes With during the month of March of highlighting women who are using technology to innovate within their industries. My guest today is a good friend, Cassandra Bailey, who is founder and CEO of Slice Communications. And nice to have you here virtually.
Nice to be here, Tracey.
We're both coming to you from our home offices as we have been for the last almost a year. So Cass and I talk a lot about communication. And certainly since I've started in marketing many, many years ago, it is a totally different ballgame. And what I wanted to start off asking Cass is, there's a lot of companies over the last year who had not been using tech to communicate for whatever myriad reasons. We are not here to judge, but I thought it would be good to find out, from her perspective, what you're seeing from these companies, how they're getting started, which are the tech that they're using, what are some of the issues that they're seeing. So this is like a multi-pronged question.
Sure. So, one of the things that we noticed is that companies and individuals, so even sales and marketing professionals at large global companies, used to rely and would always tell us that they were fine from a marketing perspective because everything was word of mouth and everything was referral for them. A lot of them spent quite a bit of time on the road at trade shows and conferences, and that was their primary marketing channel. And unfortunately, a lot of that has gone away.
Yeah.
Even the trade shows and conferences that are happening virtually aren't happening in the same way. And that sort of word of mouth marketing, that shaking hands and kissing babies type of marketing has been eliminated. And that's been really hard for some people and companies that relied primarily on word of mouth marketing. And so what we've seen is that this idea of word of mouth is still present. This idea that others with influence refer you in still happens, but it happens very, very differently now. And it only happens for companies that stay top of mind. And the way that you stay top of mind today is so different than you did before, like showing up the trade show or at the booth. It is all dependent on technology. And some of those technologies are things that people can own, and some of those are things that they use. So owned might be your own email list, your CRM, your website. Things that you use of others might be LinkedIn or Twitter or Instagram or your association databases. But on either one of those fronts, if you don't have some sort of marketing technology stack or infrastructure, you're not going to be able to do digital word of mouth marketing.
Right. So so if you were getting started as a business, and this is again, small, medium, and large, because I think there'd be a lot of people who were shocked with even large companies have not been able to communicate with either their, so the other thing that I also just want to mention is that we forget sometimes that it's not just communicating with your customers or potential customers.
Mhm.
It's also communicating with your internal people.
It certainly is. And actually, we look at 6 different audiences.
Okay, let's talk about that first.
Yeah, you have your clients and customers for sure. You have your employees, prospective employees, coworkers, right? That internal comms that you mentioned. Some people also need to communicate with their competitors, or at least know what their competitors are saying. And they used to go to trade shows and conferences to learn that. For some, they have their investors, or on the nonprofit side, their donors. Others have their partners, right? Sometimes they're supply chain partners, sometimes they're joint venture partners. And then the last are your centers of influence, the people who refer you business. And so when you're thinking about marketing technology and platforms and communications, there needs to be something that supports all 6 of those audiences.
And sometimes it could be multiples. There are some free opportunities out there, like Twitter or Instagram. There are free managing technologies that if you only have 1 or 2 people who are on the platform. We use Buffer. There's Hootsuite. Those are some things that you can schedule your social pieces. What are some other things that you might recommend?
One of the big gaps that we see is organizations that don't have CRMs in place. They don't have all their contacts in one place. And even very, very large organizations, the people that work there don't always have their contacts in the CRM that's provided. And so this focus on knowing who your contacts are, if you want to send an email out to your COIs, or even if you want to make sure that you're delivering a LinkedIn ad to your COIs, all of that requires a solid CRM. It requires that you have all of your contacts in one place. Imagine like when you used to go to trade shows and conferences, your contacts more or less would be there. Or events, marketing events. Now they're not. You need to put them in one place where you can easily organize them and access them. And that's a big missing piece for the marketing technology stack that we've actually seen in a lot of places. And like I said, even if they have it in place, they're not using it or using it well. There's no discipline around it.
Right. And that's, it's really interesting. I call it electronic filing, which I hate. I hate electronic filing. And if you're doing onesies and twosies, it's not something that can be automated. It is just something that you have to, bear down and just do it.
And I understand that. And I hate it too. And the discipline of it is really, really challenging. But back in the day, we used to spend hours in line at airports getting through security, and we hated that too. And yet we did it, right? We did it for the payoff of going to the trade show,
right,
talking with our customers, talking with those word of mouth partners. And that was the payoff. I think what's hard for some companies and some individuals is that doing that digital filing, they don't necessarily understand how to get to the payoff. And that's where putting marketing strategy and other marketing technology in place will help them realize that that digital filing, just like waiting in line at the airport, does actually contribute to the growth of the company.
That is an excellent analogy.
They're both super painful, right?
Right. They are both super painful. And it's interesting that you say, we think about marketing as, all about ads and all these different types of social, and we associate those technologies with those tools. But even I forgot that CRM is really, that's the key.
And it is so core and it is so central. It's the spine really of your whole marketing program, or it should be, right? Because ultimately marketing is about people, about actual human beings, right, about getting their attention, about keeping their attention, about convincing them to take some sort of action. And so if we think about people, how do we organize our people? How do we organize our contacts? And until we do that, it's going to be very hard to make sure that our social effort works the way that it should, or that our email effort works the way that it should, or even that our PR effort. I mean, I say to people all the time, a media placement is only as good as the people who see it. And so if your key audience doesn't happen to open that website or turn on the TV when you happen to be on it, you're not getting the maximum value of that media placement. It's about getting it in front of those people, and CRM is that connection to people.
So that's the first piece. And then, everyone is going to be using different tools to see the audience that they're going to reach.
Mhm.
But are there some easy ways that you would recommend for somebody to get started and test the waters if they haven't done anything?
The most important thing is to recognize who your target audience is. And again, expand your mind beyond just being clients and customers. It may be those centers of influence. It may be those partners. It may even be your investors. If your investors get really engaged in what you're doing and you're able to leverage their relationships, you actually might have a bigger impact on your business than trying to do a big marketing campaign focused on clients and customers. That said, identify who the most important audience is and then meet them where they are. How do they like to get news and information? Where do they go to get that news and information? Because that's where you need to be. So if you have a consumer audience, maybe it is on Instagram or Pinterest or TikTok or Facebook. If you're in a B2B audience, most people are looking for companies, products, services, and people to help them solve their problems on LinkedIn. If you're thinking about a community that's super active on Twitter because there's a lot of back and forth and everybody communicates with each other, and there are audiences that are like that, then Twitter might be that place to be. But who are they? How do they get news and information? And then put the technology in place to meet them where they are.
So interesting that we're talking about this. A lot of the interviews that I've done, we've talked about process
Hmm.
and goals before the tech,
Yep.
right? So I think that it is something to, really think about of the process before you start going and doing those tests.
That's absolutely true. A lot of times companies will come to us and they'll say, I'm going to do HubSpot. And it's like, why? Why are you doing? Why? Because it seems like a cool technology and somebody else used it really well. But what is your plan? What is your process? What are you hoping to get out of it? And will HubSpot actually do that? We don't know. Or they say, oh, I'm gonna go out and get Buffer or Hootsuite or whatever. And it's like, okay, but who's gonna manage it? And who's gonna approve the posts? And what's your standard operating procedure for reporting or for handling customer service? If customer service is one of your primary goals.
Right.
But that's why like people need to figure that out. And it's no different in marketing technology. No different.
Well, I have a feeling we could sit here for a really, really long time and we're just talking about a specific thing, but I did want to give you a couple of minutes to talk about an event that you have run for many years at this point.
This is our 7th year hosting Social Media Day Philadelphia.
So Social Media Day Philadelphia could be an excellent place for somebody who is trying to learn from experts, especially since, guess what, it's going to be virtual.
It is. For everybody's safety, Social Media Day is June 30th, and it is going to be virtual. And it is for people who are learning about social, but the community is more than just social. It's actually all digital communications. So there's going to be content for people who are in analytics and looking at analytics suites and technology they want to put in place. There are going to be conversations about email marketing. There are going to be conversations about websites. There's going to be conversations about SEO and SEM and about YouTube and about all of these things. Anything that really falls into the digital communications platform is going to be featured at Social Media Day. And we are going to talk about how do you select tools and technology. It's something that every year when we survey our audience, they want to know more about. What are the best tools? How do I pick them? How do I select them? What is the tech I need to know about? What does it enable me to do differently? So whether that's social media advertising technology or listening technology or analytics or other digital platforms that support it, we are going to be talking about all of those things as well. So it is June 30th and everybody's welcome.
Well, that is awesome. And we will make sure to put the link in the notes so that you know where to go. I think it's important for businesses to really educate themselves. What the pandemic should have taught all of us is that we need to figure out multiple ways to interact and to also, it's time to invest in tech. And to really think about how you're doing that. You're going to get left behind.
Well, and no communication happens these days without technology.
Correct. Yeah.
It just doesn't. And that's unlikely to change in the near future.
Correct. So I think we'll do another another 15 minutes with, and we'll talk about the future of live events.
Mm.
I think that would be really interesting because, of course, we do lots of events, and that's the way that we reach out to, our audiences. But that's for another day. So, Cass, thanks for being with us. And, make sure to sign up for Social Media Day.
Thank you, Tracey, for having me, and I hope to see you all there.
Okay.